because of her helpful attitude and her friendly personality, and we love Oneonta School. So I know you guys just did a nice garden there, right? A big garden there, right? Yeah, it's awesome. I helped out with that with UCSD. And then we have Cub Scout Troop 866 has been in existence since 2008 and is chartered by St. James Lutheran Church. They meet 3 times per month. That's great. And enjoy activities such as hiking, camping, and community service. So welcome, gentlemen. So you guys could all come up to the front and you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much. Please rise. Down salute. Thank you very much. That was very nice. That was definitely a team effort. And then, Madam Clerk, are there any agenda changes? We were gonna, oh, or Council, any agenda changes?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to request that we pull items 2.8 and 2.14 from the consent calendar and take them up at the end of our regular agenda.
Any other requested changes? Can we get a motion on that? Or a
Yes.
second?
I so move.
Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Great, thank you. And now we'd like to invite, boy, the audience really
Hey Doug,
moved out of here.
hey Doug.
We could close
Can
the
we close
door
that
back
door?
there.
Just a little.
Now I'd like to start with Councilman Bilbray, if there's any announcements.
Just one announcement. I attended the Metro Wastewater JPA meeting on April 7th. No reportable action. We just went over a little bit of the history of what's going on there right now.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Patton?
Yeah, a lot went on this whole last month, but one thing in particular, some of the council and myself met with Commanding Officer Barnett and Navy Base Coronado last week, kind of informal gathering, along with some of his top staff, Homeland Security, just as a way to further our working relationships. Imperial Beach and Navy Town, we have Coastal Campus coming, we have outlying fields. So it was a good event, and I think we all walked away knowing that we all can work together in the future. In addition, a couple announcements. On April 30th is the citywide garage sale, free registration. I know everybody looks forward to that. And I need, maybe Mr. Villa could help me out here. Is the weekend after Homefront cleanup?
Excuse me?
The EDCO Homefront cleanup?
So it's a weekend after. Thanks.
Yes, that's correct.
May 7th. So that's one of Imperial Beach's big parties. If you ever go down, Mar Vista, EDCO really takes care of our city by providing services that basically lets everybody fill up their trucks as many times as they want and clean up their houses, and which is a big goal for us, is to make sure we have nice looking houses. So I encourage everybody to do that one on May 7th. Also on April 30th is the Fiesta Del Mar, and I think it's going to be the biggest and best one so far, and other people may chime in on that as well. I know food, art, music, people from Rosarito Beach, and I haven't been on the groundwork of that, so I don't know, Mrs. Bragg or Mr. Dindina, Mayor Dindina might
Actually,
know
Ed, if
more.
you want, can Ed update us on that?
Yeah,
or-
Ed, could you?
Sure, absolutely. So Fiesta Del Mar, it's going to have a full day of music starting in the afternoon with Mar Vista High School Ballet Folklorico and a children's mariachi group and some musicians from Rosarito. band called Mediodía from Tijuana. And then we've got Jarabe Mexicano, which is a student group out of SDSU. They're really big right now. And of course, headlining at 5 p.m. is Todo Mundo. And as well as that, we're going to have 15 artists from Rosarito. The Rosarito Art Festival are going to be there selling their artwork. And we're going to have a live exhibition of a muralist that's going to be spray painting a piece on site in cooperation with the IB Arts Bureau. We're going to have the Girl Scouts from the US and Mexico are going to be collaborating with a booth and going to have some arts and crafts, as well as Boys and Girls Clubs from Rosarito and the US. We're going to have Porto Nuevo Hotel is bringing food, as well as the Corner Restaurant Group, 5 different restaurants, C180, Prado, etc., are going to be bringing Baja-inspired food. There'll be a beer and wine garden, Mexican beer and Baja wine garden. Score International is bringing maybe 6 off-road vehicles, as well as a big semi truck. So there's going to be a lot going on that day, a lot of great fun.
And I'm going to give full credit to Ed. He's waved his magic wand and made this happen. I just show up and I can explain that in a little bit. But anyway, thanks, Ed, for that.
Yeah, thanks for the update, Ed. I'm glad I started it and you finished that because that was a lot. Okay, no, thank you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Bragg.
Thank you. I do want to show something as part of our city's 60th birthday celebration. Here is one of the bricks that you can purchase. The last time we did this, the brick program over at Veterans Park in the Rotunda area, these were $100. With technology, these can now be purchased for $52. You can fill out your form and purchase it online. And there are only 115 spaces left. So if you do want to purchase a brick for your family, your business, your organization, please do. This one says City of Imperial Beach, staying classic since 1956. So those are, it's just an idea of something that you could do. And again, you can fill out your entry form online. At the last MTS meeting, we were given a report. It was called the Community Impact and Performance Report. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can thank me for that later. But I wanted to point out to the community that in this report, they listed the top 10 bus routes in the San Diego region. 5 of those bus routes, 5 of the top 10 bus routes are in the South Bay. So as we're doing our planning and we're attending SANDAG meetings and MTS meetings, it's important to remember that as colleagues, it's important for us to reach out to National City, Chula Vista, and Coronado, because their planning goes hand in hand with our planning. And their headline, one of the headlines on one of the pages was "Where Transit Goes, Communities Grow." And they talk in here about the savings, and a 2-person household can save on average more than $12,000 per year by reducing 1 car out of their family. So, you know me, I'm always a big advocate for transit. So I'm not waving at you guys. There's a little bug flying around here. So thank you. I just wanted to point that out. It's important to use our public transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Spriggs.
Right, dovetailing on that, and the mayor may want to talk about this as our city's lead representative to SANDAG.
You go ahead if you want to update them or.
Just a
Yeah,
general
okay.
thing. SANDAG has been working on finalizing plans for regional transportation strategy, as well as funding to improve mass transit and highways and roads, and to eliminate grade level crossings of the trolley, particularly here in the South Bay on E Street and H Street, and to generally improve the commuting experience for people in San Diego County. That may be accompanied by a proposed 1/4% or 1/4 cent sales tax increase that may or may not be on the ballot coming up in order to provide these the revenues for a bond issue. So stay tuned for more on that. But this is all about being able to move people around the area to their jobs and to their homes. We've seen a map of that was designed for Imperial Beach that shows where Imperial Beach residents go to employment centers and who comes from what locations to Imperial Beach for employment. And looking at that map, there's a tremendous amount of movement from IB people out to different employment centers and from different residential areas to Imperial Beach for employment. So the transit issues that Councilmember Bragg was talking about are very much on the mind of Sandag, and they're very much relevant to this community and its well-being. So we will be paying attention to those issues at Sandag and keeping the community informed as well. I had a couple other quick items. The International Boundary and Water Commission Citizens Forum met for the first time. It was generally a briefing on the history of the border, all through several states. And I was elected co-chair of the commission of the
Great.
Citizens Forum, which is
Congratulations.
quite an honor by the other members. And unfortunately, my first job, I'm still working on it, as co-chair is to try to get as many board members to participate in a Surfrider tour, Surfrider Foundation tour of the border on the Mexico side, to take a look at the conditions on that side that contribute to the kind of pollution issues that we're all very concerned about. And that'll be taking place this Saturday, and several Citizens Forum members, along with myself, will be participating in that with the Surfrider Foundation board and other members. Finally, the League of California Cities had their policy committees meet here on the 8th of this month. I'm on the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Policy Committee. They reviewed a number of bills that are pending in the state legislature that can affect cities and communities. And luckily this year, on this year's agenda so far, none of them are really of huge concern in terms of needing the league needing to oppose them. The league generally tends to protect the rights of municipalities to sort of self-rule versus state-imposed mandates. And at this point, it's looking reasonably decent. We did have a very, very long discussion about Senate Bill 1000, which would require cities amending their general plans or doing new general plans to include an environmental justice provision in those general plans, a component dealing with environmental issues like the poor areas of each community having access to healthy conditions. And several of us felt that that was not a bad idea, because many communities are ignoring those parts of their communities. Imperial Beach does not. So for us, it would not really be that much of a burden. But the majority decided to oppose that change in state legislation. So there won't be any requirements for general plans and environmental justice, unfortunately. That's all I got.
Great, thank you. So I wanted to report, we had an issue with the closing of the Tijuana Rivermouth. And just so it's clear, the minute we were notified by the Fish and Wildlife Service and our lifeguards that the Rivermouth was closed, it's probably like about 3 weeks ago to about a month ago, we immediately began working with the Fish and Wildlife Service to get them to open it. There's a whole series of email exchange in which I encouraged them to meet with our resident coastal engineering expert, Joe Ellis, who's on our Tidelands Advisory Committee, who works for Marathon Construction, who's arguably one of the nation's, if not the world's leading experts on coastal dredging, and to discuss why they need to get it open sooner. We also encourage them to meet with our own sea level rise planning consultant, Dr. Dave Revel, who arguably, again, is one of the world's leading experts on coastal geomorphology and the movement of sand, who studied with Dr. Greg Griggs at UC Santa Cruz, who literally with Bob Guza at Scripps is the #1 expert. So it was the son of global experts. The Fish and Wildlife Service's response was, we have it all under control. Turns out they had not renewed a dredging permit for 15,000 cubic yards of sand to actually dredge the Rivermouth. So they told us everything was under control. The environmental conditions were fine. I want to thank to our lifeguards and our public and our public safety department, our public work department worked with us to monitor conditions. When it started raining, within less than 2 weeks after the closure, we again basically emphasized they needed to open it by the weekend. And this was really last week, not this weekend, but the weekend before last. On the Sunday, we basically, after we were told to keep our hands off, this is a Fish and Wildlife Service project. Don't worry your pretty little head. We made a couple of phone calls, and the next day it was opened. Unfortunately, that was too late. Our streets had already flooded. And on Tuesday morning, I went down with the lifeguards, public works safety department, public works department, public safety department, city manager, and we obviously noticed there had been a big impact on leopard sharks and smoothhound sharks, as well as probably all kinds of mollusks, et cetera. So obviously, the follow-up on that is we need to have a protocol and policy about what we would like to do in terms of making sure that river mouth's open. And really the key thing is when there's no rain and no sewage inputs, sewage spills, estuaries can sustain that kind of closure, and they have real-time monitoring. There's actually a monitoring station right near the south end of Seacoast Drive in the main channel, so they know the oxygen levels, et cetera. But obviously, it's no longer a natural system. We had a 39 million gallon sewage spill before it started raining, and obviously, it can't sustain that kind of input. And more importantly, when it rains, it fills up really quickly. We were lucky it didn't rain a lot more because it would have filled up and started flooding our city. We were very concerned about it flooding the east side. So we're going to follow up. We have a meeting, I think, next week with the Fish and Wildlife Service. That's something we're going to bring up. We've made it clear that if it happens again, we won't be waiting 2 weeks. We'll be getting it. If we have to do it, we'll do it. But we're lucky things weren't worse, but we have to have that under control. Right now, I want to thank Captain Robert Stabenow, the lifeguard departments. I think you guys are monitoring that twice a day. And it appears that it's moving even further south, and it could fill in again. So we'll be keeping you apprised of that. But I also want to just thank the city staff and our consultants were on it. Joe Ellis was on it. They finally listened to him. But, you know, this fact is things are changing really quickly in our beachfront. The sand's doing things we haven't seen it do before. We've had a movement of sand in a road area off Ivy Boulevard that filled in within 3 days, 4 to 7 feet. And I know some of you here have been observing the beachfront as long as I have. I know none of us have ever seen that happen before. So very dynamic coastal zone, but it's really important that we adapt to that and understand that we have to move quickly when that happens. So, so I want to thank all the city staff for their support on that. I just got back yesterday from a meeting with the San Diego Chamber of Commerce and colleagues from the Mexican side of the border in Mexico City. Just so there's full disclosure that those expenses were paid for by Sandag. I went as a Sandag member and the mayor of Imperial Beach, but I was lucky to be involved in smaller meetings with high-level Mexican representatives from the Ministry of Foreign Relations, including the Undersecretary for North America and his staff, to talk first about improving border crossings. That's something that the U.S. and Mexico are working a lot, and then Sandag and Caltrans are working with, but also had an opportunity to discuss our concerns about water quality. So they know the issue very well, but that's something we're not going to let drop. So we're still continuing to focus on that. And then just on a follow-up on Sandag, I also was able to spend time with Ron Roberts, the chair of the board of Sandag, as well as Gary Gallegos, the executive director. Gary just told me on Monday morning that in terms of this, if this bond measure goes through, they have an early action plan that would benefit for South County. That would include increased blue line service because it's over capacity, starting to purple line that would go up to 805. I know hopefully this makes you happy, Councilmember Bragg. Enhanced rapid bus service up to 5, which would then require that to have HOV lanes in the 5. So we said we're very supportive of that. I've also been really proud of how the South Bay is working together to really coordinate things that need to improve the South Bay. We're one of the most impacted areas in terms of public transit and our highways. Additionally, that bond measure would provide a significant amount of funding for local road improvements, things like the active transportation planning, improving sidewalks, making more bike lanes, making our streets safer. It would do that. The Safe Routes to School program, making all the streets around that access our schools safer. So that's something we'll be talking about this evening later. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. There's some controversy about that from some folks who don't like transit and then some folks who don't like highways. I talked at one of the meetings about I'm really proud of Imperial Beach where we learned to compromise. I know we didn't grow up in an entitled city. No one ever in Imperial Beach ever got what they wanted. And I know Bobby, Pat, and Robert Stabenow can attest to that. Very few spoiled kids in IB. So we're used to compromising. We're used to understanding that if nobody ever gets what they want in a deal like that, and we seem to think that's something we should be moving on. So anyway, that's it. And now we have a presentation. Oh, we have presentation section of the evening. We have a recognition of IB. Oh, I'm sorry. Speaker slips. Sorry. We have Zeke representing Self. Zeke is our number 2 cyclist in IB, not the number 1. He lost that slot to Linda. So anyway.
Zeke Mazer, 522 7th Street. My calendar said that today they were supposed to break ground for breakwater. That's all I expect here. But also I heard a rumor there might be In-N-Out burger place there. I would like that. Thank you.
I'm not so sure the In-N-Out Burger is going with your street cred as like a super healthy cyclist, but anyway. City Manager Hall, would you like to update Mr. Zeke?
I believe just this afternoon, the Sudbury Properties informed us that they are planning to have their groundbreaking on May 5th. And I could be wrong. I think they're trying to hone in on a time. And the last I heard, they were looking at 10 o'clock a.m. I think that just came in this afternoon from Sudbury Corporation. The big reason for the delay was Mr. Sudbury himself wanted to be present at the groundbreaking. And he was going to be out of the country and be returning and able to attend on May 5th.
Now we have Bart and Marcia Bachman. And just remember, just read your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
Perfect. Okay, good evening. My name is Marcia Bachman. This is my husband, Bart Bachman, and this is Alfie Bachman, our rescue puppy. Yes, he is a puppy, 85 pounds of pure muscle who loves to run. We're trying to figure out who's taking who on a walk these days, but I'm working at it. We live on Seacoast, 1128 Seacoast, here in Imperial Beach. We don't have a yard. We have the beautiful ocean as our backyard, such as apartments and condos, but we do not have an enclosed backyard. That's why I'm here on behalf of the dog park subject. Candy Unger and Tim O'Neill have worked on this, and we are joining in their support for this project. There are approximately 1,900 licensed dogs here in Imperial Beach, but where can they run? Where can they go? Except the sidewalks, the streets, the parks, but it's all leashed. If we want to do an unleashed and let these dogs run, we have to go outside to Coronado or Balboa. And in turn, we are bringing revenue to Coronado and Balboa. When you're out with your animal, okay, let's get a drink, let's get a sandwich. IB needs to be the destination for that. We shouldn't have to go out of that. Health and wellness is very important here in Imperial Beach. Most of us do agree on that. And not only for people, dogs are pack animals. They do need to socialize. And as it is, the sidewalks are very crowded. We also now have the pedicabs and bike riders, and we are just in a big conglomeration. So whatever we can do to help move this along, whatever areas we can come, and again, I know it's been a subject for a really long time, but it's time now, instead of having a subject or an item on an agenda, it is time for resolution, and we will do what it takes to look at properties, talk to people, do what we can, so we can keep making this a family-friendly place. Because if you look around, it is also a dog community. Everywhere you look, I'm up and down Seacoast all the time, and I probably know more dogs by their name than the owners. You know, this is so-and-so, owner, whatever. Same here, I'm Alfie's mom, but that's fine. Very important, and whatever we can do, and I appreciate your time. You'll have a great evening.
Very well said. Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you and the rest of the public know that at their next meeting, the Parks and Recreation Committee will be looking at the needs assessment for different recreational amenities that we need in the community and scoring things like dog parks and workout equipment, some of those kinds of things. So if you will get a hold of Ed maybe tomorrow, he can let you know when that meeting's going to be, and you may want to make sure to register that same comment with the Parks and Recreation Committee. That'd be very helpful. So.
Can I just say one more thing? I know that there has been trial issues done. As I said, I did confirm with Tim. And the reason people are not for it is, number one, there is the issue of people not cleaning up with their pets. And I've seen that, which makes the rest of us doesn't look so good. And then the barking issue. Well, if you have a dog park issue, they're going to be off the streets. They're going to be playing. They don't want to bark. They just want to chase a ball. So thank you, Ed. I will be in touch with you.
Okay, thank you. James Lacerna, the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, James De La Serna with the Boys and Girls Clubs of South County, 976 Ebony Avenue. Just wanted to give an update as far as a lot of the things that have been going on over at Sports Park lately. It's not working.
Oh, it's not working at all.
Mm-mm. There we go. So we just released our recreation class schedule. The first week of May is when we start up the next round of classes coming up. As you can see, some of these are just some of the pictures we have. A lot of what you'll see on the PowerPoint is pictures of just stuff that's been going on. So kickboxing has been continuing and it's been doing really well, on average getting about 8 students. And we also we're just getting like just a high volume of students coming in after high school. We've just been getting really busy, which is a great thing. A lot of the kids want to come after school and see what's going on at Sports Park. If the gym's available, they'll want to go around and play basketball. As you can see on the picture on the left, on the right is again kickboxing, and this is a continuation of our schedule. It's a 3-page schedule, and if you want to see it even further in depth, you can check us out on our Facebook page, facebook.com/IB Sports Park. And then we've skateboarding as of late has been really catching on. We have a skate school class that's been doing really well. We've got an instructor who's sponsored by Osiris. His name is Mike Owen. And so we're re-upping that again first week of May, just like the majority of all our other classes, like our dance classes. And we also did like a skate park picnic. That went really well. We were able to get some input from the skaters as far as what they wanted to see potentially in an expansion of the skate park. So we did get some really solid feedback from them. Well, this is a Taekwondo. We have 7 students as of now. Taekwondo has started up. It's something that we want to continue to do. We've also started up a yoga class and a guitar class. Are you clicking or is it just me clicking? Holy moly. Sorry about that.
Touchy.
But I did want to touch up on an event that we have coming up this weekend. We're hosting the first ever Imperial Beach Community Expo, community being further defined into 7 categories, ranging from emotional, environmental, intellectual, occupational, physical, spiritual, and social. And so, as you can see with the slides, the purple one is an indicator of some of the stuff that you'll see as an adult. We have like free massages going on. We're gonna have some CrossFit challenges going on as well. We're gonna have one of our promotions for wrestling event. They'll be there as well, doing wrestling matches throughout. We're gonna have live band performance. The green one indicates for teenagers some of the stuff that they can expect to see. Southwestern Community College will be in attendance, and then we also have some stuff going on for the kids, like the national fitness competition. And an entire kids zone. So come check us out this weekend. Events from 12 to 4. It'll be at the Sports Park Recreation Center. And I ran out of time, but thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, no more speaker slips? Okay, I'm sorry, yeah, right. Karen Stone. Karen Stone?
Hello. I'm here because I live at 772 8th Street, Imperial Beach, and that's 2 houses away from the shopping center. My husband was Mr. Stone, Charles Stone, And I would like to petition to have the name of the shopping center not be Breakwater. I think it would be an honor to name it after him. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but everyone I've spoke with, they are in agreement with it. And so I'm just here to propose that idea.
Mayor, if I could respond, that is owned by a private developer. What I will do is pass on your recommendation to the private developer and ask them if they would consider that. And we don't name the projects, the actual applicants do, but I will definitely pass along your recommendation
Thank you.
and let them know that you'd like them to consider it.
Thank
you. You bet.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we go on to the present. Now we go on to the presentation section of the evening. No more, that's it. Sorry, guys. Okay. Ella Crozier? I'm sorry? Ella Crozier?
Good evening, mayors, members of the council. I've come this evening to express concern. I'm a
Could you read
part,
your address for the record?
well, I live at 25 Blue Anchor K Road, Coronado. And I own an apartment building at 1380 Hemlock Avenue, Imperial Beach, and owned it for some 40 years, maybe. It's hard to say, time flies. But the reason I'm here is because our street out front is in need of repair. Where the asphalt meets the curb and close to the curb, about a foot away, you know, there's that bit of cement and then the curb. Well, it's tearing away there and it really needs to be addressed. And I noticed that some of the other streets are being done very nicely. I come down 13th Street often, and that's turned out really well. And so I was wondering if maybe someone could take a look at this and see if something could be done there. We've been upgrading our landscaping in front, and when other people see the landscapes coming along, others come along and they paint their buildings, make it look nicer. And that's our hope too, of, you know, making the whole area there look better. And the other concern that I have is the safety issue. When we come out of the driveway there, my people that are tenants coming out of there, there's this curb on either side and people park there. And when you're coming out of the driveway, you can't see to get out on the street safely. So I'm wondering if you could take a look at that and see if you could maybe red curb it to see if we could get some safety there coming out on the street. And also, we don't have any crippled parking in that area either. And there's a lot of people that come and go that some of my tenants are older, and they have people that visit that are older. And it would be nice to have maybe some, you know, crippled parking spaces there. If they could do that, would be great. If they could take a look at that area and see what could be done to improve it. And also, I just want to say, of all these bicycle lanes, it's maybe a great concept for bicycling, but I travel these streets pretty often and I don't see that many bicycles for the amount of money that we spend on this bicycle situation. And that's just my personal thought on it. And but you're in charge of the money. So I'm asking you all to take a look and see what you can do for my street, if you would. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good, thank you. Presentations 1.1 and 1.2. Number 1.1, recognition of IB firefighters for life-saving efforts. Fire Chief French will give the report.
Mayor, City Council, we're here tonight to recognize 4 of our firefighters for a life-saving effort. And I'll go a little bit into the story and introduce the firefighters that were part of this life-saving effort. On March 31st at about 11:30 a.m., Captain Paul Favor, firefighter Will Buchanan, and firefighter CJ Marin, and Corey Cooper, firefighter, was the acting engineer that day. He's not here tonight. But they were on the way back from a medical call in San Diego when they saw a header of smoke. So they pulled over to the side of the road, got their safety equipment on, knowing that they were going to get dispatched on this call. So as soon as they were dressed in their equipment, they headed in that direction. They got dispatched. They were the first engine on scene to this call in San Diego. Flames and smoke coming out the front of the building. And when they got on scene, one of the neighbors said that there possibly could be somebody trapped inside the structure. So as a crew, CJ and Will took a hose line into the front of the building, knocked down the fire, and did a search. In one of the back bedrooms, they found an unconscious gentleman laying on the back floor. So they pulled the gentleman outside, got him EMS help, and he was in the ICU unit for about a week, and he is doing good right now. So we'd like to recognize these guys for that life-saving effort. It's not too often where we get a chance to save somebody from a fire, so it's a big thing and takes a lot of effort and shows that the training that our guys go through is doing what it needs to do, and showing that we as a crew are out there to help save, the lives, save the property and the environment for the citizens in this region. So I'd like to recognize these guys on a great effort. CJ, if you'd like to come up here, and CJ and Will were the ones that went inside. Paul Faber was in command of the fire at the beginning there. So I'd like to thank their efforts, and I'm sure the gentleman they saved would like to do that also. The fire was started by one of the residents, wasn't the gentleman they saved, so they arrested somebody else for starting the fire. So I'd like to thank them and, just have them recognized for their efforts.
Yeah, Mr. Patton would like to make a comment.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Thank you. Imperial Beach, we strive on making sure we have the right equipment for you guys, for fire department, lifeguards, but more importantly, we make sure we have the right personnel, and obviously we have it, because the insight that you knew what to do, and you did it, and you saved a man's life. So thank you very much.
Well said. Can we all get a photo?
You never know. The sound, I don't know how to turn the sound on. It's the clicker. It's a real clicker. It's a real camera.
And now we have presentation 1.2. That's the presentation by Environmental Program Manager Chris Helmer on Environmental Month. And Chris Helmer will give a report on that.
Well, in the spirit of Earth Day, we kind of do this every April. We recognize April as Environmental Awareness Month in the city of Imperial Beach. We actually mentioned most of the activities that we're doing this month. On your consent agenda, you have a resolution declaring April as Environmental Awareness Month. A few of the highlights that I kind of want to call out again. One we didn't mention is the annual Creek to Bay cleanup activity. That's the 14th annual one this year, and I think Wild Coast is actually helping out on this one too. It's a lot of NGOs. This is an activity that all of the agencies in the county of San Diego support. This year we have cleanup activities going the Tijuana Community Gardens, off Hollister Road, off the Tijuana River Valley Trail, Dairy Mart Road, YMCA Camp Surf, and the Otay Valley Regional Park. They're still in need of volunteers. So if you go on to the I Love a Clean San Diego website, they'll have a link for you guys to sign up. So if you're looking to do cleanup or participate in, there's also lots of other cleanup activities throughout all of San Diego County on there. This is the biggest cleanup event that's going on in all of San Diego County. Happens this upcoming weekend. You've already mentioned the annual garage sale, which goes on the same day as the Fiesta Del Mar, which you already mentioned, which followed by the annual Homefront cleanup event, which you've already mentioned. And we've already had mention of the IB Community Expo. So I think my work's already done here because everything that I was going to mention, you guys have already brought up. So our city is doing a good job of, I think we're already stewards of the environment, and you guys are already living the spirit of Earth Day.
I want to thank you for all your leadership on the Tijuana River issues. You are leading the effort on the recovery team, so we really appreciate that. And I know that our Public Works Department under Hank Levine has been just exemplary about keeping our streets clean, all that stuff from going in our storm drains. So, and keeping our storm drains running as well. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you so much for doing that stuff. Any other comments or?
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. And now we have the consent calendar, items 2.7, and then 2.9 to 2.13. But before that, the city attorney would like to make a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to clarify the record that in an abundance of caution on March 16th, 2016, the mayor recused himself from consideration of the Elm Avenue Improvement Project due to the proximity of your place of business. But again, that was done in an abundance of caution and upon review of the applicable Fair Political Practice Commission rules and regulations on the scope of the project. It appears you do not have a conflict of interest because it is not reasonably foreseeable that the project will have any financial effect on the financial interest related to your place of employment. Therefore, there is an agenda item, a consent agenda item 2.3 related to Elm Avenue, and so you are allowed to participate on that. Thank you.
So I would like to entertain a motion to approve consent calendar items numbers 2.1 to 2.7 and 2.9 to 213.
So moved.
Wait,
I want to pull 2.9.
pull 2.8.
Right,
That's what you
2.8,
pulled.
2.14.
So it's 2.1 to 2.7 and 2.9 to 2.13, right?
Right.
Okay.
2.1 to 2.7 and 2.9 to 2.13.
I didn't say that. Oh, okay. Sorry.
You have a motion?
Please vote.
I'll second.
Okay, second. Okay, okay. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Great. And now we have reports. A very short council meeting. Well, in theory, short council meeting this evening and a good one.
Don't jinx us.
So actually 5.1 vacant Seacoast lot activation, and Assistant City Manager Dush will give a report on the item.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. As most of you are aware of, we had an open house, community open house on the vacant Lasoy property along Seacoast. Many of you were able to attend. And this was following the City Council's ability to secure that lot from a private property owner, Mr. Lasoy, and utilize that space until such time as it is redeveloped. Having that property secured for a period of time, which is unknown to us, we had the community meeting and gathered a lot of input on the property. In your staff report, there is a little matrix that identifies all of the comments that we had received. And what I tried to do was to cull that together and break it apart into a couple of different phases that are based upon some pragmatic reasoning behind the facts that the city don't own the property. We don't know exactly how long that will have it. And so looking at those aspects and putting those things together, we just really wanted to come up with a phased approach. So for the audience's benefit, one of the biggest elements that was identified during the workshop was to have some fitness equipment there, fitness park. So taking a look at that and putting that together, we tried to identify that use along with some benches and some tables and some other programming elements that could fall within a budget that we had received, actually a $10,000 a gift from IB Beautiful, and those elements could be put together. I also identified a phase two implementation component that could result in a platform to be created for other sorts of events that were all put together. So what we're looking for this evening is some input from you all on the direction that you'd want to go relative to the sort of phase one activation or the phase two activation of that lot, which could include, again, some fitness equipment, some tables, some chairs, some benches, but all of that would also include a good design from some good design professionals to make sure that that area is done right and it creates a really good sense of place and activates that site. So I'm going to stop talking and I'll just open it up for any input that you may have.
Before we start, are there any speaker steps?
No, Mayor.
And just so, Mr. Hall, Mr. Dush, just so I'm clear, this is kind of the idea was that we had more of a kind of a discussion, open forum session. I think that all of us had sort of recommended. So that's a little bit more free form. I guess we could start playing some jazz. Anyway, but really to have, and that, I think that was the idea that this was kind of the first start of that. So anyway, does someone want to start? Mr. Patton?
Sure. I like the idea of phase one, going into whatever that may be, phase one. Jumping ahead to phase two too quickly, maybe jumping ahead too quickly. So the phase one of table, benches, areas where people can sit, enjoy lunch. Also, as mentioned, an area where we want to make sure where people can't hide and hang out. And we want it to be very visible and visitor friendly and not a hangout spot. And I think that's real important, I think, to everybody. Be it fitness equipment or be it kids equipment or whatever it may be. I think that's still up to whatever the budget comes up. But I went and saw the board that people were writing on, and there were some great ideas. And the water park, I like that one. But I don't think we quite do that one yet. Maybe phase three. So yeah, I like phase one. If we want to stick with phase one and we can all agree on something on phase one, I'm with that. So I'll let other people talk.
Councilmember Bragg.
Thank you. I think first and foremost, we need to thank IB Beautiful for their very extremely generous contribution of $10,000, because as a council, we had not allocated any funding for this whatsoever. So to be gifted such a generous amount is really noteworthy. And we have to keep in mind that this agreement is temporary in nature. So, any improvements that we do, although some of them are very grand and would be very desirable by the community, again, this is temporary. So we need to keep that in our minds. What I was really just astounded by was the variety of suggestions that were presented at the meeting the other night down there. And I'm not sure if the audience can see all of the categories or not, but large and far, a fitness park got one of the most votes for that. There are several other things that just in nature we're probably not going to be able to achieve. But again, along with Councilmember Patton's comments, we have an obligation to the community to make sure that this is a safe park. So whatever we do there, we owe it to the residents around that area and the businesses around that area that it will be safe for our residents as well. I too do favor the phase one approach. Some of the amenities that were suggested, such as the tables, the benches, those I think in my mind they're a natural fit for that area. The doggy poop bags, the scoop up bags, I think we had a speaker speaking about something like that a little bit earlier. I think that's an important component. Any of the tables that could have, that could be active as well with a chessboard grid on top of them to, you know, encourage that kind of, again, that kind of activity. There was a near and dear to my heart, somebody wanted a history, a kiosk for the history of Imperial Beach, which kiosks can be problematic, but you know me, I'm a history girl and I'm always voting for that too.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Um, I co-chair the Seacoasters along with Bob Miller, who couldn't make it tonight, so we canvassed a few people about that. So about the park to get their perspectives, and many of them were amongst the people who were there participating in this. One consideration was mentioned already, and that's public safety and not doing something that results in this becoming kind of a place that's monopolized by, you know, folks who may keep the rest of the community from really being able to enjoy it. We've got some hangout areas in the community already. It's an experiment. I think we need to be willing to try the benches and tables. But if it looks as though that's becoming monopolized to the exclusion of, you know, the majority of the folks, you know, we may need to pull that, even that out. And I think the exercise from the people that I talked with, and you can see the votes there, it's like by far and away, the fitness park idea is very popular. That looks good. I mean, that there's going to be some of this kind of equipment in Veterans Park. This is quite a distance, so, you know, maybe having something like this in this location is great. One of the considerations that came up was, this is right across the street from the hotel. It's a visitor serving area. Having uses there like a fitness park kind of thing might be very beneficial for visitors as well, and community members, and it may end up being a place where, you know, people can, you know, mix and mingle and, you know, meet new folks and that sort of thing. And if it's that, then it's a multiple benefit for all of us. I talked to the hotel manager just last week, and they are in the process of launching a kind of healthy, fitness-oriented set of programs for the hotel and the hotel guests. So this could really be a win-win, and maybe a conversation with them about how to stretch our dollars a little further with some of their dollars might be in order and completely within what they're trying to do at the hotel. So those are my thoughts. I think this is the potential to be really a nice asset for the community.
Great. First, thanks to all of you guys. It's been a great project from the beginning. And I think this is exactly what we want to see. We want to see the community and organizations step up to the plate in these public-private partnerships and really build the capacity of the community to help out with this stuff and recognize the city can only do so much. So it's a wonderful example of that. And I think all of us have been looking around San Diego County, these types of projects, at least I have, and the port's done a really great job at the Broadway Pier area with a very elegant and simple, I don't know if everybody's seen that. They have like a little park area where the ferries leave. It's made out of wood, just some decomposed granite, but it's not, I don't think it's, probably the port spent a lot of money on it, but that type of look and feel, just simple and elegant and cool, probably doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So that, I think that's why it's important to have, I know we have some folks at the arts group in National City, and then at Four Walls and at Southwestern College, and another group I know met with you, two women who are landscape designers who do this kind of stuff in other communities as well. So maybe it's involve people who've done this before. So there's like kind of an integrated look and feel for phase one. It sounds like people want to do. I was at the Getty Museum on Saturday night. Obviously the Gettys have billions of dollars, but they had a part of their public garden, and they did something with rebar and just some simple bunches and some bougainvillea. It looked really, it was amazing. Like they have really good taste over there. But again, I took a picture of it just because that part of it wasn't something that cost a lot of money, but it was very well done. So anyway, I know Four Walls International, Stephen Wright, who lives in IB and just did a park, a little parklet with the state parks. He's looking at raising some money to help out with that as well. So hopefully from SDG&E, so that could be another partnership. And then, yeah, maybe if there's an art element, maybe we can do some of the murals we talked about, or something that, again, simple. And then, yeah, I think the special events, I'd love to see jazz musicians play there, like an impromptu, guys playing jazz or some other group, so we just keep it interesting, or maybe Lawrence Walk music. So the people that want to hang out and do bad things flee the city. Polka, we do polka, they'll never hang out again. Anyway, or maybe some acid jazz, I don't know. But anyway, I want to thank the city staff and then our council and the community. This has been great. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And the workshop was awesome. People are hanging out and talking, and city staff were there, and people just were, it was a classic IB afternoon. I think everyone had a great time. Did you guys ever get the fire going?
We did not.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm sure if we put out a call for bonfires, we get plenty of pyrotechnics.
But it was a cool prop.
Yeah. So anyway, good. So, Mr. City Manager, do you want to get some, like a vote, or we just build a consensus on number one and moving forward?
It'd be nice to get make sure that we're heading in the direction the city council wants to. A couple of things that, I just wanted to add to the conversation. I was down there for a little while.
I'm sorry. I didn't
No,
want to
not
make
at
you
all.
feel left out.
No, not at all. But given the nature of this, we want to make sure that what we put there can be moved. And if for some reason Mr. Lasoy decides, hey, I want to develop my lot, there's other vacant lots in the community where we can do a very similar thing. And so we want to make sure that these things are movable. So there's been some talk about the landscaping, making sure that maybe the trees, we keep them in the boxes. So if we needed to, we could move them to another site, or the benches or the picnic tables or even the fitness equipment. If we needed to, we could transfer it to another site. So I think that was a smart suggestion that several people made. And then there was a suggestion down there, and it's listed here as pop-up businesses. I thought that was kind of interesting, and to have a space where, like, for instance, home occupations, people could come, and maybe on Wednesday night, we had the farmer's market on Friday night, but maybe on a Wednesday night, if you have a home occupation, you can come and show people what you're doing in your own little business as kind of an incubator, if you will, for people to grow their business. I thought that was kind of interesting. So I was really impressed with some of the input we got as well. Now there's some input that we got that isn't on this list, because there were some things like, dancing exhibits by the city manager and some of those kinds of things that were not appropriate for that lot or anywhere else in the world. But the input from the residents I thought was really cool. And so I think more than anything, I would love for the council to think of this as kind of a blueprint, that maybe this is a great place to do this, but maybe there's other places in the community where just need a little tender loving care and could really change the neighborhood. So I hope that we look at this as maybe a blueprint model that we can apply other places. I think it's kind of a cool idea.
Mr. Spriggs, you had.
I forgot to mention one thing, and one of the public speakers mentioned this, and this also came up in the discussions I've had in the community, and that's a number of people are interested in a dog park in this community, and this is very important. I mean, I think the number, if we did a census in Imperial Beach, I think the dogs would have it, and no question about it. And if they could vote, I would have loved to have been able to register them during the last election. We've got to do something about this, and I don't think, and the people I've spoken with don't think that putting it right on Seacoast Drive across from the hotel is a good idea, but we've got to really put our minds behind finding a space like this, at least this size, somewhere else where dogs can run off leash and they can be fenced. Because it is true, there are so many dog owners in Imperial Beach, and there's really no place. And we have other areas we are consciously trying to protect that are really being overly used by dogs on or off leash, including the beach, including the estuary's perimeters, and sometimes into the estuary. And if we could create a dog park and encourage people to use it and to pick up after their dogs and create a culture around the users of the dog park along those lines, I think it would probably keep our sidewalks cleaner and keep some of the protected areas that we're interested in better shape. So we actually do need to devote some some real attention to this again, I think. And so I bring it up in the context of this probably isn't the place, but we've really got to move on that.
Yeah, really good point. We're exploring some real options for a dog park in an area that is probably larger, might be a little bit further removed from homes and maybe a little bit less environmentally sensitive. So we will be bringing that to the council real soon because it's been an issue for a long time and it's got a lot of interest. But I do think that we already have ordered, and I think it makes sense for us to have one of the bag dispensers, I don't know what you call them, for the dog poop. Because right now there aren't a lot of them available on Seacoast Drive, and I think this might be a good location to have one of those dispensers on this side.
And Mr. Speaks, you're really talking about they're called off-leash dog parks, right? Where people you go in an enclosed area. They have one up in off PB Drive, whatever it's called, Grant Avenue, kind of going up to La Jolla. I was in Bellingham, Washington. I saw a great empty lot, and yeah, just a fence, and people just roaming free with their dogs. So yeah, I think definitely the idea was this was the first lot, but I think Stephen Wright or Four Walls and the city manager kind of did an inventory of empty lots to identify where projects could be. So I know also the residents of south part of IB, southeast part of IB around 10th and Iris.
Correct.
Apparently the city bought that a long time ago and had plans to put in a park like 15 years ago and everyone forgot about it. Is that right or something?
You know, I think it's a street right of way and we just
Oh,
haven't
okay.
improved that part of the street.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's a great location to do something similar to
Right.
that. So that's great.
It's in case the city ever takes over Reamfield. It's
Oh, okay.
and-
So that
and-
would be, okay. All right, good.
If I could, and Mr. Dusha, maybe you'll be the one to address this, but one of the things that we've been talking about is the activation of this park. So we had talked, about concerts, yoga, that type of thing. Who would be responsible for the scheduling of that? And then also, would permits be necessary? So is that
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, that is not necessarily one of our core competencies, to sort of activate that space. But what we can do is help facilitate that and identify, what permits would be necessary. And so what we've done when we've talked to folks, and we really need to engage our business community. A lot of the businesses in and around the area and the chamber provided us a lot of feedback. We would need to help them go through a process when they bring one of these ideas forward to find out how can we best facilitate that idea, whether it's a sort of rolling special event, but we'll need help from the community on how to program that. But since the city has the ability to use the space, they would come to us, engage us, and then we can help figure out what those things need to look like and when they could happen.
okay? So you're envisioning some modified kind of permit because we would certainly want to know who was in charge of it and contact information, and then ultimately liability issues.
Correct. Yeah. So as Andy brings up one of the ideas that had happened, with these sort of IB grown businesses, right? To where, let's say on a certain day, they would come together. That could be a special event. We would coordinate that, of course, in terms through our special event permits and allow for that to occur on the site under certain parameters. And then we would make sure that it fit with any of our liability issues and any of the exposure. So we're not exposing the city beyond what we would be doing it in any other piece of property that the city owned.
Yeah, the reason why I bring this up is that, some of those permits and especially the liability issues are onerous. And I would hate for, if there was a yoga group that wanted to meet down there, but because of those issues, they said, oh, we just cannot do that. So I think we do need to be aware of who potential partners in this could be. Maybe it could be the Chamber of Commerce. Maybe it could be our sports park, Boys and Girls Club Sports Park for some of their off-site activities. And they're used to, being able to maneuver through this potential,
Right. And again, that's exactly what we want to do is make sure that, because again, our time period here is really unknown, although, we know it's probably an outside period of maybe 3 to 5 years, could be a lot less than that. We want to make sure that we don't go through a process of 3 to 5 years in order to get something done. So again, that's where we can, as the city, since we have the ability to use that site, help guide folks on the front end of what that process and how it needs to look and feel, and again, fit within the parameters that we receive from the community meeting.
Okay, I think that's a great starting point. And clearly, there is the public safety aspect too. You have a concert, thinking, well, we're going to get 25 people. And the next thing you know, maybe 500 people show up. So there's parking issues and, amenities issues. So, but again, I don't want this to be so onerous that the community just says, oh, to heck with it. It's just too difficult. And the lots, it's empty.
Right. And that's a great example because I mean, with any special event, we would ask the individual that would want to, let's say, do something like that. What do they anticipate in terms of the amount of people, the duration, and so we can understand what that looks like, and then coordinate with the other departments in the city to make sure that it's not going to have an impact, or at least to minimize what those impacts are. Because again, the whole objective of this was to take it's hard to, I mean, I think back at what that lot looked like with the fence up and the weeds and the cans and the bottles that some people in this room may or may not have gone on to and cleaned up. But it's so different from the way it looks right now. And so now here we're talking about a space that was once sort of just a blight. Now it's a great piece of property that could be utilized for something. So in such a short period of time, we've come such a long way, and we want to make sure that we enable that property to again sort of activate, put eyes on the street, and minimize any of those issues along that corridor along Wendell Coast for actually everybody in the community. So again, we'll want to make sure that we identify what those potential issues are, so it doesn't become an issue as like now we've created a problem.
Yeah, Mr. Patton.
Real quick, not to spend a lot of money, would there be any electricity there?
There currently would not be any electricity there. We wouldn't want to necessarily put in that sort of infrastructure into that site. So if there was an event, you could do it like either with the generator or maybe the acoustic thing. I don't know how the mayor anticipated the polka music, but I know a guy, and there could be some things that could be done there.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry I asked a question.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like, the Beatles playing on the roof, right? Or U2 and this truck in the street. I guess have a generator or something. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, let's go all acoustic. We could have an acoustic series on MTV, right?
IB Acoustic.
Yeah, IB Acoustic. So anyway, first of all, thanks for all your comments. And then, yeah, Councilmember Bragg, I think the whole point, what we're moving towards a community in which the city is in the facilitation business. And, our council and our city staff are working with the public sector, the nonprofits and also the business community to facilitate these events. But we're not in the manage events business, right? And I think ultimately that's what IB Beautiful's done on the with the farmers market. And I think ultimately that's what we're looking at. Hopefully it's organizations like IB Beautiful or Arts or Four Walls or other organizations say, hey, you know what, we want to do this, or the Courtyard. So anyway, I think that's what the IB Arts Bureau is doing. And so that ultimately, we're just building capacity so people do cool stuff and it doesn't cost taxpayers a lot of money or staff time.
Right.
So I think this is a good start. So again, it sounds like we have consensus on phase one moving forward, and then do you guys feel comfortable about that, or do you want to vote formally, or it sounds like we're all, you want to vote, or no, I think it sounds like we're okay. Good. I'm okay. You're okay. All right.
We'll incorporate as many as we can. I thought it was a good idea if we're going to have tables, maybe some of them be game tables. We'll try to incorporate as much as we can and stay within phase one and stay within our funding, but really make some fun things that we can do.
And then I guess we could just come back to the council when it's ready and then to look at it with the land.
Yeah,
proposal is
absolutely.
And sign it. Okay.
You bet.
And I guess finally, just I'd love to have the community involved in helping build it whenever we do put it together. I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes. Now we have.
Yeah. Some of those things, thanks to our public works department and Hank and his crew.
There's a trash can there right now.
Some of those things were put out there right away.
Now we have resolution number 2016-7682, item 2.8, fiscal year 2016 budget amendment for Parks Resolution Design. Did I miss something? Are we done? Oh,
No, you're fine.
okay. Did I? Anything else?
Nope, that was my fault.
Okay. Design P15-401. Are you going to discuss that, Mr. Helmer? Or Hank? It was the Parks restroom design.
Oh, no, we were doing item 5.2. the
That's
ATP
missing here.
grant.
I'm sorry, I had the
Yeah.
cheat sheet.
Well, yeah, and that's what I mean. That's what I was jumping in for. We had 5.2 and I thought.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was using the cheat sheet
No
here.
problem.
Okay,
No problem.
my fault, I'm all over the place tonight. So
Me too. That's what I thought. Wait, we're not there yet.
5.2, resolution number 2016-7698, approving the application for an active transportation program, ATP grant for complete streets improvements, Imperial Beach Boulevard, and appropriating $16,950 for city engineer to prepare and submit the grant application.
Thanks, Mayor. I did the same.
Oh, it's the next page. Sorry. The whole thing was blank here. Okay.
I did the same thing.
Am I on?
Go for it. Yeah, maybe I can open up a little bit of a discussion and then we'll turn it over to Hank. We wanted to come to the city council because we wanted to talk to you about the possibility of about applying for a grant, for an ATP grant on Imperial Beach Boulevard. And there's been a lot of discussion. What does that really mean? Well, what we're trying to do is make sure that Imperial Beach Boulevard is friendly for not only the vehicles, but pedestrians and bicycles as well. And so, for instance, Councilwoman Brad called me during the week and said, okay, so what are some of the things you might be thinking of in this kind of a grant application? And it might be things like working with the school district to widen the sidewalk near the high school, maybe replacing the chain link fence with something that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, making sure that bicycles and pedestrians can get to the beach from this area of the community safely. And so the same kinds of things that we've tried to do on Old Palm Avenue and 13th Street. So we just wanted to make sure that before we jumped into any sort of ATP planning on Imperial Beach Boulevard, that the city council was okay with implementing those kind of strategies that we haven't done on IB Boulevard to this point. So we thought it'd be worth having a discussion and kind of getting your input on some of the things you'd like to see IB Boulevard, the way you'd kind of like that road to feel in the future. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Hank, who's got some of the more details about what this grant would allow us to do and some ideas for moving forward.
Mayor, council members, this stretch of IB Boulevard between Seacoast Drive and Connecticut Avenue, Connecticut Street, it faces two schools, the Imperial Beach School, Charter School, and also the high school. And it currently is 2 lanes, one in each direction plus a center turn lane. The active transportation grant, we've had some grants already received from that. You've seen some of the improvements that have been resulted from that. The 13th Street was just still nearly completed. Palm Avenue between 7th and 3rd, and some other grants that we've had for those improvements. I step back just a little bit, and you've heard me talk about this before. Back in 2011, 12, and 13, the city, with a grant, did a survey with the schools, the residents in our city about how to make our city more walkable, bikeable, and safe for our students and our residents. And they identified a number of locations which could be improved. One of those is what you've approved to proceed with, and that is the Elm Avenue between between Seacoast Drive and 7th Street. And that's advertised now, and we open the bids next Thursday, so it's underway. I'm suggesting to you to consider a project that would be funded in a similar manner for Imperial Beach Boulevard in front of the schools, and all the way to Seacoast Drive. When you approved, or your predecessors approved, the bicycle transportation plan, that section of the city was also recommended for, approved for, a Class 2 bike lane through there. So I'm suggesting that you consider letting us apply for a grant and giving an appropriation of funds to our city engineer to prepare a grant application for this cycle. And this cycle is due to Caltrans or Sandag by June 15th. So we've got just about 2 months to put this together. My idea is to have, as the city manager said, is a wider sidewalk adjacent to the school, some stormwater infiltration aspects, patterns somewhat similar to what we have on Palm Avenue, and probably a little narrower traffic lanes so that we try to calm the traffic down, improve the intersection at 4th and 2nd on Ivy Boulevard to be more pedestrian compliant and ADA accessible to meet the current rules. And I'll just show you if you'd like, see if I can make this work. Am I pushing the wrong button?
You could use this button right here. There you go.
This one?
Yes, sir.
This is a stretch that I'm looking at. To the left is Seacoast Drive, to the right is Connecticut, and much in the center you see Sports Park and the schools. I'm advertising this as a complete street design, and complete streets is defined as I've shown here, and I won't read it. You've got it. But basically to improve mobility for all users. Walkability is defined as shown there, and bikeability is also as shown there. Basically, again, accommodating and making these facilities much more safe for and usable for these ways of mobility. I thought maybe just to get some visual might help. This is Connecticut looking west on Imperial Beach Boulevard, and that's a school on the right. I would, if you are agreeable to go forward with this, I would like to meet very soon with the South Bay Union School District and the high school to talk about how we can make that sidewalk adjacent to that area wider. And improving the intersection there that you see. This is at East Lane, looking west, and to the right is the entrance into the school. That intersection needs to be improved and made ADA accessible. It's really not. This is in Loudon Lane. This is where we've recently, City Council recently approved money and a contract to put the crosswalk in there, the crossing lights, and improve the median there. And I like to note that the high school students and the elementary students use that crossing, I think, very appropriately. I don't see, and the landscape there does not suggest that the students are crossing inappropriately across the street. The landscape is been left in a very good condition. I think the students are very helpful in trying to see our city look good on Lake Street. So this is going further west. This is California. Again, we're not very ADA accessible. We are not ADA compliant there at the intersection. One of the things that I'd like to point out, that's this slide shows as good as any. On the right side, adjacent to the school parking lot there, on the sidewalk, you see those pop-outs or those curb cuts that are containing landscape. I'd like to consider being able to do something different, and if we're going to create parking and water infiltration and bicycling along this, I don't know exactly how that'll come out when we end up doing the drawing, but I'd like to make sure that you understand, the community understands, and in my opinion, that would be one of those things that would be subject to redesign or reuse. This is 5th Street. Adjacent to the high school, again on the right with the football field and the church on the left. That intersection on the left was just upgraded to ADA compliance. So when we did Fifth Street overlay. So that one is in good shape. This is the intersection of Fourth, looking Fourth on the left, going into Sports Park. And then further up where the bus is 4th Street going to the north. And that intersection would have to be brought ADA compliant, as would this one. And this is Third. And this is Second. Second is not currently ADA compliant. Third is. And then Imperial Beach Boulevard, which is ADA compliant. So again, I'm asking you to consider whether you want to try to provide a complete streets concept in this section of Imperial Beach Boulevard, whether you want to do it now and seek a grant to facilitate it, or if you're not ready now, we can consider it later, depending on what you want to do. We're also looking at possibly other grants that might be coming down to augment onto this. I know Chris Helmer has looked at possibly Prop 1 grants, which are water grants, and that might be we might be successful in competing for infiltration basins, for instance, along that stretch of the roadway. So I'm open to discussion and feedback, and if you adopt resolution tonight, then I'll get NV5 moving forward expeditiously to get something prepared for submittal to Caltrans on not later than June 15th.
Before we start, do we have any speaker slips?
No.
Mr. Hall, there was a missing element I think about chain link fences. That was with the school district.
Yeah, we weren't. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You were going to say.
Yeah,
sorry.
yes, I didn't mention it, but it is in your staff report. I'm suggesting that the grant include replacement of an upgrade of that fence that's along the schools, particularly the high school, as part of this grant.
Great, thank you. Mr. Patton.
Thank you, Mr. Levine. It seems like we have a lot going on. We have Palm Avenue going on. We have Elm Avenue going on, and then we're going to have this going on. Is that a lot on our plate at once?
Yes, it's a lot. I mean, Elm hopefully will be near completion, if not completion, by the time this project would be coming up to be able to be designed, assuming we received a grant. And as you can see from Elm, it's taken us about a year to plan it and design it and get it advertised. So you're looking at, probably a year and a half at all before this one is ready to go. So if we don't, I believe we can sequence these, and we have been trying to do that. Not to say my plate isn't full and I'm not delivering as fast as you'd like, but
No, I'm not saying
it's
not fast enough. I didn't say that. And then it'd be a grant plus how much out of pocket?
don't know that. The grant does not require a contribution, but you get extra points when the city contributes. So for instance, when we got the Elm Avenue grant, the city contributed 50% of what we were asking for. And that gave us a lot of extra points, which helped us. At this point, I don't know how much I will propose to you that we contribute, and I'm not sure where we get those funds if we have to. But ATP grant does not require a match for a low-income community, which we are considered.
And then a couple of other things that you mentioned that I wrote down in my notes. Definitely, I know before we talked to Sweetwater about Elm, and we talked to South Bay about Elm, yet it kind of came back at us. That I mentioned that, or I wrote that down too, that we do that again.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned that, obviously. The remove planters, the planters, I think that's a great idea to maybe some ADA type parking or regular parking. The bulb outs on some of the streets that seem like it'll work great. California, nice wide street. Some of the other streets are pretty wide. Yet on 4th Street, I can imagine a bulb out on both of those to make it ADA. It's just going to be another very, very tight street that our citizens can't stand. So what do we do about that?
If we're going to redo streets and we're going to apply for grants, we have to comply with ADA. We'll certainly look at trying to, figure out how to make them maneuverable for vehicles to minimize it, the turning arc that they have to go around. But we are obligated, whether it's with grant money or whether it's transit dollars, we have to comply with the current ADA. So we'll try to make sure that we are complying with that. I think to me, the narrowest one that we're dealing with is the entrance into IB school. That entrance there to make it ADA compliant is going to be a challenge.
IB charter,
We need the charter, right? We need to work with both school districts in order to make sure that we're accommodating their needs and also, I would like to think that the school districts want to have their facilities ADA compliant, and so they would want to try to work with us to make that happen.
Yeah, I don't think you'd get much argument about ADA compliant. I just think, I'm sure they want to make sure that all their parents that go in there every day and out of there every day, that it's a smooth process. Yep. And I'm sure you're going to work on that. And then lastly, I really like the fact that at Loudon Lane, the crosswalk with the lights, the one further up just past Sports Park, does that one have lights?
Yes, sir.
It does have lights.
Yes, sir.
I'm so into the lights at the crosswalks that it helps, not that I'm a distracted driver, but you know what? Sometimes people just pop out, but they put those lights on. I think we should just make it every crosswalk we put in town on these busy streets, we should have lights. But, and I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really amazed at how well the students seem to, once we put those 2 crosswalks in there, use those predominantly. Not everybody's not jaywalking, but I think the jaywalking is much less.
I agree. Thank you.
Mr. Spriggs.
Thanks, Mr. Levine. And you've got some great ideas, and I think they're all very worthy, including the things that you feel must be done, like the ADA compliance with the ramps. The idea of redoing the high school fence is a good one. I just wanted to throw out some considerations, in thinking about this a little further. This slide that's up right here is a good one because it illustrates, how important the street is going to be if we envision the 100-room hotel where that little house is right there. And so this is going to become, for the long term in Imperial Beach, even more of a major access point, egress point, road than it has been up to this point. So I think we need to bear in mind that there won't be a lot more traffic because of the hotel, because a lot of those folks won't even have cars necessarily, and it's not like there's 100 folks coming and going every day and all that. But it is a consideration, and it leads to the other related factor of not overly narrowing the street, because we do need it as an evacuation street in an emergency, and we need it to improve our ability to move people out of there after Sandcastle and after 4th of July and that sort of thing on this street and the others as well, including, we talked about this a little bit with regard to Elm Street, and it's certainly been talked about with regard to Palm Avenue. So those are considerations in terms of it being a thoroughfare that I just think we need to keep in mind. There's another possibility here for this street as well that I think, looking forward, we should think about. And if you go to the slide number 1, I think was the first slide, or maybe just pull back 1 or 2 from this one. Yeah, okay.
That's third.
Yeah, that's good. And how about the one between the two? The next one after this. There we go. Okay.
That's second.
That's good. That's it second. We have we're working on developing our ecotourism. We'll be doing more of that going forward. I anticipate as we start thinking about our long-term strategies and everything, and that's certainly one of them. The hotel, the pedestrians from the hotel, that area to the left, the estuary, is one of our core gems in this community. And a lot of people walk up and down Seacoast Drive to the southwest of our viewpoint right here. Bird watching, and there's an area where there's a bench there, and then there's the boardwalk down at the end. If anything, probably not enough areas for sitting down Seacoast Drive. Now, I'm not talking about Seacoast Drive right now, but probably not enough considering that there are more and more people walking that area, wanting to bird watch in that area. This is an area that we do have some opportunity to think about in that regard. This is a wonderful sort of park open space. And in a way, it's not as fully utilized as it could be for people walking along this area, stopping, bird watching. There aren't hardly any benches along there, if any. I think there's maybe one. The sidewalk could be wider. I'm talking about the south sidewalk. As again, looking at tourism, ecotourism, our senior citizens and others who love to walk, it could be enhanced, is what I'm saying. So I would urge us to think about those possibilities as part of the rest of the planning. The area from 3rd to Seacoast Drive along the estuary there. I think, walkability is one thing. Sitability is another. Viewability. It's a wonderful piece of nature that I think we ought to be thinking about when we do street design and pedestrian design. And that's basically it for my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Spriggs. Councilmember Bragg, did you have any?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Levine. Our community has gone a long way with the application and being able to receive grants. And this active transportation grant is just another example of that. And what's also clearly evident is that there will be other opportunities to attach other grant opportunities to this, quite possibly. So thank you for always being on top of that and aware of that. And you can leave this slide here too, because Mr. Spriggs, it caught my eye as well. But one of the things, I'll address that while this slide is up, is that that is a very narrow sidewalk there. But this has the opportunity, quite possibly closer maybe, or anywhere along there, for an observation deck. So that, there would be plenty of opportunity to engage in, like Ed so eloquently stated, this is a beautiful piece of nature right here. So if we could somehow partner with another agency, Fish and Wildlife, whoever, for an observation deck there, and again, the widening of that sidewalk. But going to the slide closer to the intersection of IB Boulevard and Seacoast Drive, I think one of the things that we really need to keep in our mind is that any improvements that we are doing there at that intersection or widening that sidewalk, the other partners that we need to be looking at is, what is the hotel going to be doing? And also, the bus stop that's there closer up is one of my least favorite bus stops. Is there something that I know MTS has new bus stops that include lighting? So this could help with that issue as well. So let's certainly look at including that as part of our discussion. I just don't think that we can have a conversation without looking at, and we had talked about this when this other piece of property when the hotel was going to be developed, is that what are we as a city going to be doing? So let's do all of this in concert. So we're not going back after somebody's already done something and only to find out it should have been done at that same time. And my question now kind of leads to the other side of the street. I would just like to state, I would not be in favor of any parking alongside the school. I think that by having parking there and buses coming and going, traffic coming and going, widening the sidewalk, I just don't think that adding the element of parking there would be very safe. I did wonder if the school district was going to contribute to any of the dollars in any of this project, or are they just going to hopefully let us improve this area? Or have we had that discussion yet?
We have not had that discussion.
Okay. Okay. If you'll let me finish and then you can, okay, update us in that. So, like I said, I would not be in favor of parking along that, that stretch of road right there. The fact that that the stormwater infiltration and other grants that could possibly tie in with this, I think is critical. We have seen that time and time again where by us not addressing that issue, it costs us money. So if we can include that, I would greatly be in favor of that. And when we talk about the ADA component of these intersections, I think we could be mindful that maybe not every intersection has to be ADA, or if we're going to do the stretch of road, would that be our intent? Because as Mr. Patton pointed out, there are going to be some problematic intersection. And I think that without the school district possibly even, deeding some of that land over to us so that we can make those ADA components, it just, maybe we're creating a nightmare, so.
The ADA is one of those that is extremely difficult to not comply with. And if you're going to get money, you're going to put money on it. I mean, it's pretty clear in the federal law that we have to make the intersections ADA compliant.
So it would be every intersection in this project?
That we touch, yes, if it's not currently compliant.
That doesn't require a bulb.
Depends on the real estate we've got and how we design it. I mean, I don't have, I mean, as you've seen where we've got the bulb outs, it takes that much real estate in order to make it ADA compliant. So we'll have to work on the engineering to see how we can make that work.
Okay. And then again, just touching on that stretch of sidewalk in front of the schools, that is extremely narrow. So I think that the community would just be, just ecstatic that we could, if we could widen that. I think that's one of the key selling points of this project would be widening those sidewalks on either side of the street. Thank you.
Sidewalk in front of what school? Ivy Charter, or the sidewalk in front of Mar Vista?
Both.
The problem with that, and I agree with you for safety, the problem with it is during football season, soccer season, sports season, if there was no parking along that long stretch, all those people, then they already would be parking down California, Lot and Fifth, deeper and deeper. So I think we could be a
Okay,
domino
thank you.
effect.
What I'm saying is I would not want to see any additional parking.
Additional parking,
Right,
got it,
any
okay.
additional parking. To me, our streets are for driving our cars on and not parking our cars on. So I just want to be mindful of that. So it would not be the introduction of more parking in that
It's
area.
pretty hard to add many more spaces other than maybe where those curb pop outs are in a planter. And there are only a couple there, so it wouldn't do a lot. I think another thing I just like to throw into discussions is that, there's dozens of cars parents drop off their kids there along that school frontage. I'd like to work with the school in terms of how do we help facilitate that in this plan.
To create more of a drop-off zone, perhaps?
Potentially.
Okay.
I mean, we have to look at the real estate and what the school's willing to work with us on.
Right. The reason why I brought up the parking is it was included. It says parking on both sides of the street, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to make it clear what what was in my mind.
Okay.
I have very little to add except for thank you for looking at this. And I know that regardless of, it was a good point about the sequencing and we have enough work. And I think the idea of sequencing this stuff, because if this bond measure is passed by SANDAG, there's going to be a significant amount of money to do this in other areas. So I think the idea of being really clear with us, hey, this is, this is phase 1, phase 2, or sequence 1. So, and we're moving forward. But the idea of planning in advance is great. And then Mr. Spriggs and Mrs. Bragg's comment about the sort of improving the estuary side is great. And this idea of there's art sidewalks and, maybe even having at 3rd and Ivy Boulevard, maybe something related to the estuary. I don't know, fish or a dolphin or, some sort of sidewalk. That's a popular element. And I think the stormwater incorporation with Prop 1 element is brilliant. And I think that could be the matching money. So that's great. And then just to let you know, last week, the school district infrastructure director and Paula Hall, the trustee of the Sweetwater School District, had asked to meet with us, or meet with the city staff. That included the city manager, Steve Dush, and then Hank Levine, to talk about their plans for improving the school. They're really focused on looking at the swimming pool. They have limited money, bond money, swimming pool, and then looking at hopefully classroom improvements. They were, Mr. Levine updated them on the potential for this grant and said that it included the fence stuff. They seem to be kind of relieved on that because their dollars are stretched thin. So that's something also, but potentially also we talked about Elm Street chain link fences as well, which I think possibly with this grant, this current project, we might be eliminating. Is that correct? Some of them are not on the high school though, right?
This is not not an Elm Avenue side, but you have in your agenda, I think you've already approved it.
Right, the plan,
for
yeah.
the MOU,
Right.
which will allow us to put a wrought iron fence, rail fence along Connecticut Elm and the alley that runs up by the school.
Right.
high
Okay.
school.
So anyway, there were no commitments to anything, but they seem to emphasize, and I think their budgets agree that they're pretty strapped thin. They really want to focus on hopefully improving classrooms. So that was it.
So one last comment. I know you're looking for direction and I would like to move that way. We're seeing more and more with some of these grants and some of the, the cap and trade dollars. And you're never quite sure when that money is going to be released. But one of the things that they're always looking at is shovel-ready projects. So anything that we can get in the pipeline along those works. And then another interesting factor that they're always looking at on these grants, and it's something that we learned when we went to Washington, D.C. and met with a congressional delegation, and each one of them asked us, and I think it would be wise for us to always include this in our grant applications, is the number of jobs that are created with the project. Every single one of them asked us about that. So it's something that is noteworthy and something I think that we really need to be, we're doing these projects to say, okay, this is going to create X amount of jobs in this area. So thank you.
Great. With that, I would like to entertain a motion to adopt resolution number,
Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
I had my
sorry.
button pushed. Just a couple quick comments. I'm also in favor of moving forward with this, but because it's so early in the planning stages, really like to see us incorporate anything but stop signs at Connecticut and 3rd, if at all possible. And if we can't, I'd like to, next time it's brought up, just a little small explanation of why we couldn't do it. Appreciate that.
Great. I would like to entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2016-7698, approving the application for an active transportation ATP grant for complete streets improvements to Imperial Beach Boulevard and appropriating $16,950 for city engineer to prepare and submit the grant application. Right, a second.
Can we include in the motion the comments made by the council? Because they are in addition to the items itemized in the report.
So I'll add that in that. Mr. Bilbray, do I just add an addendum to that or just restate it?
So,
Okay. So did you just do that? Are you doing that then, or? Okay. Okay, please vote. Thank you, Mr. Bilbray.
Motion carried unanimously.
Park restroom design.
Okay, I'll do a brief summary on it. In your approved budget and your approved CIP, you have a design project to propose a similar design for the Veterans Park and the Sports Park restrooms for fiscal year 16, and then fiscal year 17 to start working towards hopefully construction on one and or both the placement of those parks restrooms. They're in need of replacement. They've exceeded their useful life. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any specific questions you have for the project.
Thanks. Obviously, it's something that's needed, and no doubts, no opposition to the restroom reconstructions. The question I had is the doubling of the amount of the planning budget from 75,000 to 150,000, and taking away that 75,000 from the construction of the 2 bathrooms, and whether that was going to leave us short on the construction side and therefore in need of dipping into the general fund to complete this project. And if that's the case, we need to know about it now and know what we're getting into, rather than just taking that money out of the construction budget, adding it to design, and then here we are, really with a bigger construction budget obligation than is shown in the report.
I guess I'll take a stab at that first. Adding the additional design of both restrooms is really the cost-saving mechanism here. So you have the ability to move forward with the construction of one and or both restrooms. This is sports park and the restroom ones. The construction dollars that were set aside in fiscal year 17 is probably not enough to do both of them. But I mean, that's not saying that there's not an opportunity to maybe match funds with grants that are coming down. There's not an opportunity to partner on something in the future. But adding the design for both restrooms and adding the extra $75,000 to complete the designs for both is really a cost-saving mechanism. So you have the construction plans ready to move forward with construction on both these projects. Part of the design will have the construction bid documents, and in those you'll have estimated construction costs. At this time, we don't have that information of how much it's going to cost to actually construct these, but that's part of what the intent of these designs are.
Okay, thanks. Just one last question then. Aren't there some economies in designing them both together so that we don't just double from 75 to 150 on the design budget? Shouldn't that be more of a slight increase in order to design both at the same time rather than a doubling?
As it turns out, what I had estimated or been led to believe it would cost to design one, just to design one of them was going to be more than 75. So you're right. It is. It isn't doubling, although it looks like it's doubling, because I didn't have an appropriate amount of money set aside for, or ask you to promote appropriate amount of money for the design of one of them. I forget what their first estimate was, but do you remember, was it 90? It was something larger, which kind of shook me. I was surprised it was that much money to design it.
Okay.
I'm also surprised at how long it's going to cost us probably too, but.
Right. So then you're anticipating additional sources of funds in 2017 for the second bathroom to be constructed that probably wouldn't require that we appropriate funds from the general fund.
The funds for this are coming from the recreation, what's the right word for that? The recreation fee. And those are still coming in as developments come in, like Breakwater is going to add, not Breakwater, Bernardo Shores is going to add substantial. Some of the other developments that are coming in that add some to it. So it's hard to say exactly what the funds will be available from that fund by the time we are ready to ask you to advertise for construction. But the funds right now that is in there in the appropriated budget is all coming from that.
Okay, thank you.
Which bathrooms will be done first?
I'm guessing you'll tell me.
Do you have any suggestions?
I can recommend, but you'll tell me.
Why don't I see what your recommendation is first? And I'll bet it's probably in line with mine.
My thought is to do sports park and then rec and then veterans.
That's what I thought you'd say, Mr. Levine. Thank you.
Great. With that, I would like to adopt a resolution sorry. I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2016-7682, fiscal year 2016 budget amendment for Parks Restroom Design P15-401. Right. Second. Right. Please vote. Great. Now we have, oh, I'm sorry, waiting.
Motion carried unanimously.
Great. Now we have item 2.14, adoption of resolution number 2016-7689, awarding contract to PDC for the 100% construction drawings for Palm Avenue SR 75 Commercial Corridor Streetscape Plan. You gonna give a brief summary of that? Is that what you wanted, Mr. Spriggs?
Yeah, just briefly, this is the continuation of a segment of the Palm Avenue Master Plan for the 100% construction drawings. If memory serves, this would go from the far west end of the community to just east of 7th and not get into that midtown area. Again, this would be the 100% construction drawings. This area does not include any of the local access lanes that were talked about last time. So those are not in this 100% area, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. This is our old issue of from one point of view at least, being riding this raft on the river of Sandegs Palm Avenue grants and riding it at a speed that's faster than we are able to do our own thinking and planning about the consequences of relinquishment of Route 75 to the city, assuming responsibility for the whole route, and thereby being able to complete these plans according to our wishes, as opposed to in compliance with the requirements of the highway people. Caltrans. So what we're looking at here is $100,000 to match a $400,000 grant for a total of $500,000, and that's this year, plus another 13 to 15, looking at the report. And then if it turns out that we decide, and we still haven't received all of the information we need to determine whether or not we're going to accept relinquishment from Caltrans yet. So once again, we're starting on a new phase of studying with our own matching resources being put on the table in anticipation that we're going to have to accept relinquishment. To me, this is putting the council in the position or has the potential, and the more we do this, the more that potential becomes a serious concern of mine, of putting us in a position where we won't have a choice, no matter what the numbers say, about us accepting relinquishment of the highway. We would have invested these funds, we would have done all this planning, the Palm Avenue Master Plan and now this West End, only to be told that none of it is really going to be doable unless we accept relinquishment from Caltrans. And we haven't seen the price tag that's going to come with for ongoing maintenance of Route 75 by the city of Imperial Beach. So those have been my concerns for quite some time, long before the current city manager and assistant city manager have been on board. And or maybe you were here during the whole time, Mr. City Manager. It just seems to me that, and I understand there may be a possibility that this west end of Route 75 design can be done in such a manner that there's a plan B that would comply with Caltrans requirements if we did not accept relinquishment from Caltrans, so that we wouldn't have to go back, as it suggests we would in the report, and amend the 100% final construction or final design drawings if we did not accept relinquishment. We'd have to amend these in order to comply with Caltrans requirements. So at our expense. So you see what I'm getting at, that just as in the case of the Palm Avenue Master Plan, we never did a Plan B that would have complied. We only did Plan A, which complied with the grant so that it can only be implemented with relinquishment. I would hope that this West End project that we're being asked to approve right now would have the Plan A and Plan B in it, so that we would not have to add money at the end of it in order to comply with Caltrans requirements if we choose to exercise our prerogative to not accept relinquishment of Route 75 from Caltrans.
So first off, let me indicate that I share the same concerns relative to the relinquishment discussion as Mr. Hall and I have discussed with yourself on a number of occasions. This segment of Palm Avenue is the segment that is the least constrained relative to the right of way and the ability to comply with the existing Caltrans standards. But as far as developing two plans A and Plan B with this, we would only have the ability to go through and identify a single design. Now, I did put in the report that what is happening at Caltrans, and recently, there was a presentation done by Lori Berman at the South County EDC meeting a while back. They are in a state of looking at their existing design parameters, which is why I put in the report their new modified sort of mission and value statement, which is looking at designs a little bit differently. So I offer that because a design that would contemplate modifications to Caltrans standards from today may in the future be compatible with Caltrans standards, and in that event we would not have to modify the plans. Our consultant PDC, who we've identified to continue on with this project, is well aware of the issues that we have heard from not only yourself but other individuals relative to relinquishment. And so if we're able to move forward with this project, and there is a determination that relinquishment is not what the city wants to do, as you had indicated, it is the city's prerogative, and we do not have that data yet. Actually, next week, Andy and I are meeting again with Caltrans to vet that a little bit more. And as we indicated last time with the 30% construction drawings, we'll be bringing that information back to the city council. So if we move forward with the plan contemplating deviations from existing Caltrans standards, and Caltrans does not modify their standards, and the city does not do relinquishment, then we would have to modify those plans.
Yeah, I wanted to make some comment just on the process. I think my first meeting or second meeting, we had discussion on Palm Avenue, and I think more than a shaky raft trip, this has been sort of like a love boat. This has been a very or maybe a slow-moving cruise ship. This has been a very, very well-planned process. I attended public workshops, I think, before I was elected, and arguably this is probably one of the best attended and best mapped out city planning processes I've seen. The public workshops themselves were models of public involvement. I think at one of our last two council meetings, we discussed this issue and elected to remove the sort of side road. You know, I think it's really important to move forward on this. I mean, obviously, we're all constrained by grant parameters as we are with Elm Street or future IB Boulevard. That's just the way that the nature of these government grants works. We don't really have any other options. So I don't think this is forcing us to deal with relinquishment yet, but the fact is Caltrans is an absentee landlord. In fact, I'd characterize it as a slumlord. They have maintained Palm Avenue in a state of disrepair from the minute you get off the freeway, which is city of San Diego, and San Diego's undergoing this same process, to the limits of Imperial Beach, frankly, almost forever. One of the first things I asked was to get crosswalks painted. Apparently they're not really clear how they should put paint on highways. They actually can't even do it. And more importantly, they refuse to do it. One of the biggest holdups on 9th and Palm, frankly, has been Caltrans. That permit, we estimate, cost us $250,000. So we have this moribund state agency that can't do anything very well, basically not doing anything at all to Palm Avenue. And so I think we're moving forward on this process. So we have to decide at the end of the day what we're going to do. But regardless, we have to make Palm Avenue safer, do the lights, do the synchronization of the lights. But on this trip to Mexico City, I was able to hang out really for the first time with Kevin Faulkner, the mayor of San Diego, and have a nice conversation with him. And I asked him about Rosecrans, which was under his jurisdiction. And during when he was a council member, he actually oversaw the relinquishment of Rosecrans and then actually the improvement to that. And it was interesting, his comment was almost like it was a non-starter, a non-issue. And he goes, we couldn't get Caltrans to do anything on that road. So it was just it was interesting to see the mayor of San Diego say that. And so we did it. So, and that I think is arguably one of the best examples of relinquishment in San Diego County, because it's helped revitalize that whole area along with Liberty Station. So I guess I just want to re-emphasize to the public and then city staff and our council that you guys have been involved in this much longer than I have, but I've been very impressed with the slow, deliberate pace of this. And more importantly, I think the excellent design parameters and the way we've worked with our consultants, and more importantly, received input from the public and then acted on it. So anyway.
So no question, it's been a great process. And the Palm Avenue master plan process was very well workshopped and very well attended by the public, and a lot of great suggestions and a lot of great designs, many of which we could not do without relinquishment. And yet for, I'd say, coming up this June or July, it's probably a year since we were originally anticipating getting the documentation from Caltrans, another one of their highly competent areas, just telling us what it would cost, what they would want us to take on and what it would cost and what they'd be willing to provide the city in compensation for relinquishment. And you say those discussions, Mr. Dish, are still taking place. Can you give us some idea of when this council is going to get that information? I mean, this may go away completely. And then if it's not that much money and it's not that much of an obligation, and we get the ability to manage Route 75, and it looks like it's a cost-effective deal for the city, then I totally agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that then maybe we got the Rosecrans situation, but we don't know. We just don't have that information yet. And so I'm reluctant to keep going down this path. I have concerns, at least, about going down this path and just assuming that it's going to turn out all right. I really want that information from Caltrans that was promised almost a year ago, last June. And when are we going to get it?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, first, I'm reluctant to give you any dates of when Caltrans might get something finished. It has been very frustrating for us too. The process shouldn't be as difficult as it is. I've been through this process before. It was a much easier process. I'm not sure why our district has taken so long to do this. I don't think it's as complex as they're making it. But I can't tell you a date when we're going to have our project summary report. The reality is I'm meeting with the director of Caltrans, and we'll try to push it along. I'd like to tell you, we will have something after the next meeting next week, but we'll have to see. That said, we do have our consultant, Mr. Greg Shields, here from PDC. In previous conversations, I think this goes to the heart of your question. We have asked Greg how much change would it that we're looking at on Palm Avenue from Rainbow Drive to the extent of the city boundaries. If for some reason the city council chose not to relinquish the roadway, how much would the plans need to be modified? And he has told us in that particular section of the road, maybe I should let him tell you this. In fact, come on up, Greg, you might want to tell him. But in this section of road, the changes would be minimal. In the other sections of the road, there'd be significant changes, but maybe he can explain a little bit that in order to satisfy the Caltrans requirements, should you choose not to relinquish.
Hi, Greg Shields, Project Design Consultant, 701 B Street, San Diego. Yeah, that's exactly right. The western sector between Rainbow and up to just west of 9th is the less controversial section in terms of deviations from Caltrans standards. And, there's not the bulb outs, there's not the narrowing of the lanes that were difficult for Caltrans to approve, did not include the side median. So it's a section that is easier to work within Caltrans standards.
So, if I might, so would you anticipate that this design would require minimum changes then later on if we decided not to relinquish? And what would those cost us, do you think?
I really couldn't tell you that offhand. I think it would be important to know really up front. I think we would want to work with Caltrans and to see exactly, what we can get them to agree to on the western sector and try to minimize changes down the road. I mean, I think it's going to be probably some ongoing discussions early on with Caltrans to determine exactly what they would agree to. But we know that it's an easier section to work within Caltrans.
Great. I would like to thank you all for that update. I would like to entertain a motion to approve item number 2.14, adoption of resolution number 2016-7689, awarding a contract to PDC for the 100% construction drawings for Palm Avenue SR 75 Commercial Corridor Streetscape Plan, MF 1171. Please vote.
Motion passed by the following vote. Ayes, Mayor Dedina, Councilmember Bragg, Councilmember Patton, Councilmember Bilbray. Abstained, Mayor Pro Tem Spriggs.
Great. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.